As the nation marks the 50th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday March across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, one of the women who lost her life in the civil rights struggle is being honored here in Detroit. Viola Liuzzo will receive Wayne State University's first posthumous honorary Doctor of Laws degree. In 1965, Mrs. Liuzzo was a nursing student at Wayne State and a mother of 5 when she was killed by the Ku Klux Klan in Selma. She had traveled to the South to assist in the voting rights marches led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. The tribute to Mrs. Liuzzo takes place on April 10th. Here to talk about the event and the extraordinary woman being honored are Jocelyn Benson, who's the dean of the Wayne State Law School, and Dean Robb, who's a civil rights attorney and activist who's also a longtime friend of the Liuzzo family. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
You know, it's such a wonderful thing that Wayne State gets to claim this really important piece of Detroit history and, of course, American history with this remembrance of the Selma marches.
Yes, I think Viola Liuzzo's life and experience and the courage and her commitment to equality is exactly the type of value that we want to hold up and encourage our students to follow in her footsteps. So it's a great opportunity to create a permanent inspiration for her and recognition of her and her family's sacrifice at the law school.
Right. And tell me about the process of deciding who gets an honorary degree like this. It's never been done before for someone posthumously. Why Miss Liuzzo and why now?
Yeah, it's unprecedented because there is no process. Right. It was just here's a woman who made an extraordinary sacrifice while she was a Wayne State student. We want to honor and give her a posthumous degree, in part because of the sacrifice that she made and the example that she set in being courageous and committed to her work. And so now on the 50th anniversary of her death, and in recognition of all those, including myself, who were inspired to work on voting rights in part because of her sacrifice, we are paying tribute to her and her family and all that they've done and all the people they've inspired as a result of their work.
Right. Mr. Robb, you have to be among the people who is really happy to see her get the kind of recognition that she's getting now. I mean, of course, the movie Selma is bringing new attention to her. I mean, she's depicted quite favorably in that film, and then the 50th anniversary, of course, refocuses our attention on the things that she did. But take me back to that time here in Detroit and to her family, who you're close with. What was this all like?
Well, first of all, she was so courageous as a she was not a law student. She was a student in nursing at Wayne State, and she was a member of the NAACP, and she had been active in student activities supporting the civil rights movement, which, you know, centered around the not being able to vote, particularly in Selma. And so when they first Bloody Sunday beat people up on the Pettus Bridge, Viola saw that and said, I'm going to go down. When Martin Luther King Jr. asked for other people to join and do another march, she had to go, and she went. And after the march was successful, the walk all the way from Selma to Montgomery, about 60 miles, that same evening, she was ferreting people back and forth to catch airplanes and she was driving a young black man named Leroy Moten back to catch a plane in Montgomery to go home in Connecticut. The Klan, and we should not forget, it was really the FBI, as far as we're concerned, that killed her. Gary Thomas Rowe was an informant in that car. As a Klansman, they overtook her car, and she was killed, murdered. And then what's tragic was the FBI took over the investigation. They accused her of they found needle marks on her arm. They just trashed Viola. And so since that time, we've been trying to
correct the record.
Correct the record.
And I think in many ways what we're doing in honoring her with this degree is a way of saying thank you.
Yeah.
One of the aspects of her life that's so inspiring to me is that when she left, and I know her kids will also say this, she said this is everyone's struggle.
Right.
And she you know, there were fears that she might not come back, but she went anyway. And so giving her this degree and recognizing her and her family in this way is a way of us saying thank you. Thank you for what you've done for all of us.
And this didn't turn out great for her family either.
No, it's been terrible. They not only killed their mother, they trashed her reputation afterwards, and that was you know, just a terrible, disgraceful period run by J. Edgar Hoover, then head of the FBI.
Very different era for sure in civil rights. You know, I wonder, you guys have the Keith Center at Wayne State. Recognizing someone like Viola really sort of refocuses our attention not just on civil rights generally, but on the specific struggles, I think, that still take place. You know, voting rights is still a matter of debate in the Supreme Court and in Congress. We saw a recent ruling that I think breathes a little bit more life into it than we had before, but that's still something that we've got to focus on all the time.
Yes, certainly. The struggle continues, and the work that led to the passage of the Voting Rights Act now takes different forms today, but is just as necessary when we see declining turnout across the country. Some states doing quite well, like Oregon, passing legislation for to
make
enable
it way easier for people to vote.
Yep, and the governor, former Secretary of State, now Governor Kate Brown, challenging other states to follow and do the same. So I think, you know, our commitment as well is recognizing that the work continues, and in honoring her in this way, and we're going to have a tree dedicated in her honor in our courtyard, for the hopes that as students go by, they see and think about and contemplate what she's done and think about what their role is going to be in the struggle in the future.
Right.
And thanks to Dean Benson, Wayne Law School is training a whole new cadre of lawyers that are interested in public interest work. And Wayne is becoming the national law school famous for public interest work.
Sure, sure.
So we're so proud of.
Well, we have, you know, relationships to the city of Detroit as well, and the work that is needed in the city today, whether it's helping small businesses grow or working on civil rights and protections for our residents, all of that can our law school is a part of, and this is just another example of that.
Right, Mr. Robb, I'm curious as to your take on. I'm sure you've read the Justice Department report on Ferguson, Missouri, and all of the misdeeds and sort of strange behavior there. That reminded me, and I was not around for the civil rights era, but that reminded me of the kinds of things that you're talking about in terms of the role that authority plays in the repression of civil rights. So, do you see a difference? I mean, how far have we gotten in 50 years?
Like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That's sort of the way it seems like. We're much better off in terms of Jim Crow is dead in some respects, but the poverty and the racism rages on, and it's still a scab and a sore that America has to heal before we can be the land of the free and home of the brave.
Right, right. And it's the sort of weaving of those issues, poverty and racism, into the law and into the infrastructure that enforces the law that continues to be the challenge.
The work, and we talk about training the next generation of advocates for justice, which is really what we hope lawyers, regardless of where they go or what sides they take, are really seeking justice for all and equality under the law.
Right, right.
Go ahead. Morris Dees is going to be our featured,
your speaker.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
And we're so proud of having him here because
of the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Yes, and he's been sort of a new hero in the civil rights work because he's made it profitable to sue the hate groups and the Klan and put them out of business in some respects.
Right.
And he's just a great lawyer and a great teacher, and we're so happy to have him.
Yes, he'll be speaking at the law school on Monday, April 13th in the evening as part of our celebrations of the Liuzzo family and civil rights work. And it's all derived to both give thanks to those who've come before us, but to enable all of us to think about, you know, what the work is moving forward.
Right.
And guess who's on the board of the Southern Poverty Law Center?
Who's that?
Dean Jocelyn.
Oh, of course, Dean Jocelyn.
Yes.
Boy,
she
that-
has many prominent roles,
To be
not
on
just
board.
here in Detroit, but all around the country.
She's making Wayne proud.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what gives you hope about people like Viola Liuzzo, people today? What do you see as the potential to get past these issues at some point?
Well, one thing that gives me hope were the dozen of students who accompanied me to Selma, Alabama for the 50th anniversary,
right.
who have a renewed commitment, as many do, to move ahead. I mean, look, the work will in many ways always be necessary. With every victory comes pushback, and with every loss comes an opportunity for future success. So, what gives me hope is those who've come before us and won victories. But what really sustains me and pushes me forward, as many of us, is the work that still needs to be done and the victories that we still need to see.
Right. And are there members of the Liuzzo family still around
yeah.
who will be at the celebration?
All but Tom will be here.
Yeah, so her kids will be joining us for the celebration, and it's really a great honor to be able to thank them directly for the sacrifice that they made.
An incredible sacrifice.
I looked at Sally Liuzzo, the youngest of the kids, once when I was we were at a rally on voting rights, and I couldn't stop thinking about how she grew up without a mom so that we could all have a Voting Rights Act. And you know, that's a sacrifice that many have made in many ways around the country, but that certainly we'll be honoring through her family.
Yeah, I've been honored to be their attorney, and we sued the FBI, and we didn't win, but we uncovered all the dirty tricks of J. Edgar Hoover.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well, look forward to the celebration. Thank you guys very much for being here.
Thank you.